So, I wanted to thank everybody for listening. And if I haven't thanked enough, I am thanking you now. But I wanted to talk about an experience that I had not very long ago. Actually, it was yesterday. So, it's holiday time, and I'll be honest with you. I've gone in a lot of different beauty supply shops in the Los Angeles area, and even outside of the Los Angeles area, even out of state. So typically what I see when I go into beauty supply stores, most of them are owned by Koreans. And what I've known now, it just seems like it never really changes. Now, I do see that there have been a few, not very many, a few beauty supply shops that'll have like a black employee, because I believe what they realize is that there have been some people complaining that they're not hiring black people. And so there are a couple of places that I know of that I have went into where they have like a couple of women who are African American, and what better people to have in your beauty supply store to sell to black people black hair products. And so you would think that they would think, well, they're black, they have the same hair texture or similar hair texture. They know about the black community because they're a part of it. So why not hire people who have that type of hair texture, that know about what people like or dislike in their hair? So you would think they would hire people like that, but I have seen some places who are beauty supply shops where they have Hispanic women or Hispanic women working there, and they're trying to sell black hair care products. And typically they don't always use the same types of hair products that African American women wear on their hair. There's some products that are used, like maybe the braiding hair. I have seen Hispanic women with braids, with extensions, with some of the shampoos or conditioners, or maybe they'll use like some hair gel, but I don't normally see. Some of the products are not products that they necessarily like pressing combs and straightening hair with hot irons, except maybe the hot irons where they're like flat ironing. That might be something. Or if it's a black Latina, you know, and then I could see, but a lot of times, like when it's like hair texture of an African woman, or African, where it's like 4C and so on and so forth, you never see women with that type of hair in those shops, working in those shops. You would think it would be, well, why don't you put people who have that similar type of hair working in that shop to sell the products and tell you, oh, I like this product because this is how it makes you feel, or this product's not that great, but you could buy it, and blah 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 blah. They know a history, a background about it already, because they themselves have used it, or they have friends they know that have used it. So it only makes sense if you're trying to promote the sale of products in your store. So I have seen some beauty supply shops like this. Now we, as in a family member of mine, we went to the what they call it, the Slauson Swap Meet. And so it's sort of like this big warehouse flea market where they have all kinds of clothes, shoes, you name it, beauty supplies, and a lot of it caters to African American people in the LA area. So you'll see it's heavily secure with security guards, and when anytime something breaks out, like a fight or some kind of altercation among customer and uh, a retailer, here they come. So an incident such as that happened yesterday, where I noticed they put in this beauty bar and it says foreign lengths beauty bar. Foreign lengths meaning it's like where they do hair weaves, and they sell like real like hair, like Malaysian hair, Malaysia weaves and different types of weave hair. So I'm not a weave person, so you can tell I don't know exact names of what to say, but I guess it's where you can go basically and get your hair weaved. You can buy the hair weave product and they have a price list. And so this woman, she was really, really, really worked up, and she said she had gotten jumped on by a customer, that she was getting off work and she worked at the Foreign Lengths beauty bar, and that somebody had jumped on her over a product. And so she really didn't mention so much in detail what the whole thing was about, but then as we turned the corner, we could see this woman, and it was like four officers around her. None of them were black. They were like either they were white or Hispanic, and they were circling her, and it was basically almost like waiting for her to react, and so that they can just kind of like manhandle her. And so she started explaining her side of the story. She was very worked up, very upset, very angered. And so at some point or another, I'm going to start going out and filming, but I'm not going to say, exactly where until I post it online. Some of the experiences that I've had in the LA area, so that people can actually see more visual as to what kind of stuff goes on here, because I don't think that people realize sometimes the severity of some of these incidences and how it makes people look or it makes people feel. And then if they see these incidences on video, just like you see some of the other incidences, even though sometimes people's voices get heard or don't get heard, it brings more to light, or sheds more light on what kinds of things are happening, that it's not made up, that these things are real. These situations are real. When you have people treated a particular way and viewed a particular way, or they feel about themselves a particular way, that they have to go out of their way to wear hair weaves, to look a certain way because they, either they're getting ready for the holidays, we could say, or do they feel uncomfortable about the way their hair looks, so they have to wear this hair and spend all this money. So the lady was saying that she spent $400 on hair weave product, and that they didn't do her hair correctly, and she was pretty much disgusted behind what had happened with her hair, and that she felt like they should refund her money, which I could understand, because we went over there to look at how much the hair weave product cost, and I think for each section of hair, I guess it was $100. So she said she spent an upwards of 400 or more on her hair to be weaved, and she was very, very upset. And so I guess she got so emotional over her hair that she got in a physical altercation with the woman that worked there. Now both of them were African American, and the woman that worked there, she also had a weave, but I guess maybe she was just doing her job. Maybe she didn't talk to the woman in a particular way that was favorable, and it set the lady off, being it so that she spent more than $400 for something that didn't turn out like what she wanted it to. She said it ruined her hair. And so as she was walking past us in the hallway, you could see underneath, it didn't even look like a professional hair weave installation. It looked more like maybe somebody, maybe inexperienced neighbor just slapped some glue, didn't even part the hair, just slapped glue in there and just told her to rubber band your hair back and then just slap glue on your head and the fake weave, and it looked horrible. So you could see parts of where you could see her natural hair underneath, little rubber bands sticking out all over the place. It was really a hot mess. So I noticed that and I was saying, okay, it could be both ways. Either she was getting ready for the holidays. Maybe she felt she had to have this long, long hair or whatever for some, special occasion, or she just totally does not like her own hair. And so who knows? But it looked like she had a lot of hair underneath of her own, but it was very coarse. I just feel like she just probably doesn't, the way it looked underneath. The rubber bands, it didn't look like there was any parts. So I don't know if it was her that did it or maybe the people, they didn't do a good job and they just slapped it on there. So that's probably explaining the reason why she got so upset about the whole incident. And so I guess she was probably demanding her money back. So as black females, we're very sensitive about our hair, and I can say this for the most part. And in terms of when it comes to, hair weaves, braids, dyes, things like that, because there's so much stigma around beauty. And if there's so much stigma around beauty and stereotypes, you want to look your best and you want to defy all of those stereotypes by looking your ultimate best. And then the holidays are here, so a lot of people are going to be invited to family gatherings and socials and whatnot, parties. So you want to look your best, so it's important for you to have that ideal look, or at least look the way you would anticipate people not expecting you. Like, oh, all through the year she's just regular, plain, but wow, she came correct. So I guess that's what it has to do with. But there has been women who kind of self-hate and they don't like their own hair, so they will wear weaves and wiglets like every day. And some people will say, oh, I'm just protecting my own hair. It's very long under here. And that is true for some people. However, that's not everybody's situation. Some people's situation could be different. They might have an illness, or they could have like something wrong with their hair because of so much hair dye and hair products. Their own hair is damaged, so they have to resort to wearing weaves and wigs. Then there's some people who do it because they don't want their own hair to be damaged and they like to wear all these different styles, so they do all of the pressing and hot combing or whatever, or hairstylings to the wiglet hair because they're not damaging their own hair underneath. It's complicated situations. That's why I say it's very sensitive topic. And we do have African American or black women or women of color who will wear their natural hair and have a natural hairstyle alternatives. A lot more of that is happening or has happened. And so sometimes you'll get women who will fight over whether having straight hair is better than having, hair that has not been processed or not been chemically treated. And so the typical standard of beauty, even on news shows like Fox News, will always have blonde women and they're white. And their hair's got to be a certain length. And if it isn't a certain length, it's at least it's blonde. And so you even have some women who are not even of European descent will try to wear the blonde wigs, and some people can get away with it. It may be trendy and a new thing. However, I think they went into the color wigs and the platinum wigs and platinum dye and what have you. It evolves over time. It changes, trends, styles change over time, but the standard of beauty in terms of having to do with people of nationality, the dominant class in terms of who's who's at the forefront of American culture is usually white. And so it's always blonde white women. And so for one while they were talking about that, about how Fox News always had blonde white anchor women, and then women who weren't even from the culture of being European would try to assimilate to that look. You know, you'd have Asian women trying to get their eyes surgically fixed so that it looked whiter and it looked more European, um, changing their hair color, their face structure, going under the knife. And then you have every now and then you might have a black woman or a woman of color, but she, she depending on how she looks, if she could pass for something other than a black woman, then she goes with that narrative, that standard of beauty. And so a lot of people were not really happy about that, and I think there had been some issues with that in the past. Even now, I think there's still issues with it. And there was one lady who talked about her experiences on the news show and trying to change her eyes to fit that type of persona. And so, with women, beauty and everything having to do with hair and how you look, it's like the first thing that people see. And it's scary because, like, you're going to get older, your life is going to change over time. You're not always going to look the same, you're not always going to be the same size, you're not always going to have the same hair color. Everybody gets gray, and a lot of things can happen health wise. So that's what puts a lot of pressure on women in general. And then if you're a woman of color and you're not the typical standard of beauty, American beauty, you have more pressure because you feel like you have to upstage or step your game up just to fit in with that standard of beauty. So this is where we're at, even now, even to this day. So it's like that's why women get really emotional when you have black males on videos saying that they're going to date white women or they would prefer white women over black women. But yet, when I go down Western in LA, you have Hispanic men who will pick up black prostitutes. But they have a wife and they have kids and they'll sleep with black women in a heartbeat. If you'll have even women who are not prostitutes. They could be minding their own business in the grocery store, shopping, and you have men that will pursue them, and they're not black men. They're Hispanic men pursuing black women in grocery stores. Yes, I know it has happened to me on several occasions. So I don't know what that is, if it's a trend or whatever, but it has happened. So, and I notice that you'll have a lot of men from other backgrounds who aren't black who pursue black females. So apparently, I guess there's some lying going on. There isn't that falsehood where people think, oh, black women are unattractive. I've seen articles where it says, oh, black women are unattractive, or Mexican men don't typically go for black women. That is nothing but a crock of lies. Sometimes they can't keep their eyes off of us. And that's the problem. But their wives get jealous. They're extremely jealous. They feel threatened as if you're going for their guy. And then it's the other way around. They're coming for us. So it's like, I don't know what that is. Now, on the negative side of the whole thing is with, from what I've observed, and I'm just going on base what I've observed, is that black women are highly sexualized, and it's not a good thing, so to speak. And what I had noticed, I looked at a couple of documentaries where there's a lot of prostitution in some of the foreign countries, a lot of pedophilia, and where European men will pick up young black females who are not even of age to be consensually having intercourse with. and there's child brides in the US. There's a lot of things going on underneath all of this. And what I've realized that what I've witnessed is that when men sometimes they look at women one way and they think, oh well, she's good in bed, or she's good for sex, or she's good for, uh, um, the things that I like sexually pleasing me, but I want to marry a woman that's Mexican of my culture because it's the right thing to do. You get where I'm coming from? Or it looks better, it feels better in society, because if I'm with this black woman, then people are going to look down on me and my race. Like, why would I betray my race because I'm not with a Hispanic woman and having babies with her, but no, I'm with this black lady, and I really want to be with a black woman, but because of what society says, I can't do it because it looks bad on my race. So don't we have that even with the white culture and the black culture, where black people don't want to go outside and date outside their race, and white people sometimes do the same thing? However, we have some celebrities who have changed all of that. Well, not completely, because you still have people who will criticize those unions, and they'll say, "Oh, it's a celebrity wedding. It's not going to last. It's just for publicity. It's a publicity stunt and blah 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 blah." But that being said, anyway, the incident that I was talking about or referring to in this swap meet, it's just it's crazy because that standard of beauty, to look a particular way and be a particular way, even though you're from one culture, they have that long silky hair. It's sort of what some people will view it as self-hate, and others might say, oh no, I really do like my black culture, but I want to sometimes change my hair up. Now I have seen some women who they do appreciate who they are and where they come from, or where their people originated from, and it's not a problem of hating themselves or anything like that. It's just they like the whole thing of beauty and changing their nail color, changing their hair color. We did have women changing their eye color, but a lot of that kind of stopped, I think, because some people had problems with eyesight, because there are different things that you can get. You can damage your own eyes with certain contacts. And so even people were talking about that, saying that people wanted to change their eye color. They even had people where they were taking the color out of their eyes to lighten their eyes to look a particular way. And I don't know enough about this, but I did hear they said that was not good. It wasn't a safe practice because it was damaging people's eyes. It would cause blindness. So there's always a reason for everything. And if you mess with things that don't need messing with, you're going to learn the hard way, I always say. But so once we walked around the store, we walked around the warehouse, and we have this name that my family members and I call this place. We call it the Ghetto Mall. The reason why we say this is because typically all of the things that are in there are things, a lot of it says made from China, and then there's Korean people that work the store, for the little stores, or they're Hispanic people that are working under Koreans. And then you will see black people working in there, or they're African guys working from Africa or from Nigeria. They're working in there, and they have like a little spot. They're selling incense, they're selling all the stuff that basically a lot of black people in the urban area or local areas like to wear, or like to wear in their hair, or the styles, the trends, or whatever. And so we call it the Ghetto Mall. Well, that's just our little phrase that we use. But sometimes they will have like a lot of things like music, like certain CDs, things that you can't get in other places. You have to go, you basically have to go in a store like that to find it. And so it, but they do have the same thing for the Hispanic community. They have swap meets that cater to Hispanics, and they have certain logos. Like you'll see a lot of Scarface shirts, a lot of El Chapo shirts. Like you'll see a lot of things that cater to that particular environment and the people that are pretty much there that frequent the place as consumers. So this is the type of thing that happens. That's the reason why we know that. I'll just be honest to say it. Mexicans who think they're white, they're not white. In my book, I don't see. Maybe there is a percentage. I will say this: there's a percentage. Everybody's is different. There is a percentage of whiteness, but they're not white people. Trust me on that. From what I've experienced, they have their own set of values, their own set of the way, style of dress, their own culture, their own way of eating food, or preparing food a whole nother way. It's not the way Europeans do things or white culture. It is totally different. And it's crazy because I remember one while they would be more leaning towards indigenous and Indian culture, uh, not white culture. It would be more about we want to embrace our Indian culture. They didn't want to deal with anything having to do with the white culture because of the history of what has happened to their people. So that's why till this day I can't understand how all this come about has changed. I guess because like one guy in a video was saying that they went to court to fight for their white status, and I'm like, but well, look where your white status got you. It ended a program that primarily almost like 85 to 90% of you were basically here on, and that's the DACA program, of course. And so it's like now they swept that red carpet out from under your feet. So they pretty much put you in your place and let you realize, okay, well, you thought you were white. That's the way I look at it. I feel like they used them and they exploited them, much like they've done other groups that aren't white, that aren't fully white. And so they basically use you for your talents and your skills and your working ability and cheap labor. And then when things get hot under the collar, or they don't get hired on jobs, or it's more of you succeeding and less of them succeeding, now it's time to take back what we've given to you. That's basically what it is. And, all the while, anybody I've known that has been from that culture, I've told them, never expect something like this to go on forever. When you think it's too good to be true, it probably is. If you can just come here and you know that you have something hanging over your head, this dark cloud, like I better go and get this taken care of because if I don't, they could send me back tomorrow. It's Then you better deal with it because one day somebody's going to come along. They're going to say, well, we don't like this and this and this, and now it's all gone. And you waited how many years? So that's the way I look at it. And so I know this seems like a long drawn out thing, but it's the same thing. Even the standard of beauty of women who are of color, who are maybe they're not necessarily black, it's a whole nother, you have to basically go to your culture and find people of your background that you see as beautiful. Like they say, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, to try to feel more confident about who you are as a person rather than this typical standard American beauty thing. So a lot of that has changed now, that there is a lot of different situations that have changed that have caused people to realize, that, okay, this person isn't who they say they are. They're not all that, these people have their flaws, they have their issues, there isn't one set standard of beauty. And so With that being said, I'd like to say thank you again. But this was back before I go. They basically escorted the woman out of the swap meet, and she was holding the weave hair as she left, and she was still not satisfied. I don't think she got her money back either. So it just seemed pretty crazy, but that might be one reason that I wouldn't really put all of my money and waste it into trying to appropriate or assimilate to someone else's culture that isn't of my own. So, it's okay to like something about somebody else, but to totally like change who you are to be something that you're not, it it may not be worth it in the long run. Okay, with that being said, thank you and take care. Bye.